Rugrats Adventures in Gameland is a 2D platformer based on the popular cartoon that takes you around the Pickles house. The premise is simple. Grandpa's left to watch the kids but quickly falls asleep. Angelica tells the gang that they're going to play a game where she's the boss. She's interrupted by a commercial for a new Reptar video game on TV that quickly catches the baby's interest and inspires them to go on a quest to find coins and buy the video game. The story feels just like an actual episode of the series, right down to the way each character's written. From the moment it was revealed back in 2023, I thought it looked to be a solid game based on a show I had once enjoyed, and I was very excited to continue playing after trying the demo earlier this year. The gameplay setup is best compared to Super Mario Bros. 2 on the NES. You can choose from 4 playable characters, Tommy, Chucky, Phil, and Lil, and there are moments throughout each stage that put their unique skills to the test. Tommy's Mario, your all-rounder. Chucky has a high jump like Luigi. Phil has the strongest lift ability, and Lil has the ability to glide for a brief period like Princess Peach. Everybody also has a ground pound move which can take out most enemies in one fell swoop. There are 5 stages to choose from, with the final 6th stage becoming unlocked after you've found enough Reptar coins. Each stage has its own theme like in other platformers, such as the sandbox being desert themed, the attic a haunted mansion, and the freezer an industrial ice world. In the difficulty I played on, Baby Mode, which, despite the name, is actually the standard difficulty, you can swap between each character at any point via the pause screen. Each of the 4 characters has their own health bar, and if it runs out, the baby will cry and they're gone until you complete the level or lose health in every character remaining. I tried not to stick to one character for too long, but found myself gravitating toward Chucky and Lil. Chucky because his higher jump made me feel more confident in my actions, and Lil for her brief float ability when I wasn't too sure if I could bridge a gap. They're all very similar, so it really comes down to personal preference most of the time. Across each of the 5 main stages, the main collectibles are Reptar coins. You need 21 of them to unlock the 6th and final stage, and there are 24 in total. From what I could tell, nothing happens when you find them all, and it's not particularly difficult tracking them down, so explore a little bit and you should have no issue meeting the requirements. Another collectible are the cookies, which fill your health and act as an extra life to refill your health completely when it runs out. Each character holds their own cookies, so it's up to you to decide who should carry it. You can also get bottles of milk from defeating enemies, which restore a single health point. Because they tend to appear randomly, there were definitely moments where I had to grind enemies just to refill my health. The last main collectible in each level is Tommy's screwdriver. In the show, he usually uses it to break out of the playpen, and that's when the adventures begin. In here, the screwdrivers are used to unlock the Mega Man-style boss gate at the end of each level, meaning you can't complete the level until you find the screwdriver. The game also features 2-player co-op. Both players spend less time moving through the level and more time fighting over the screen real estate. And when one player moves on or falls behind, the other player is forced to teleport to them. I tried it out briefly, but we didn't spend very long before it was decided we would just stick to single player. The bosses in each stage were my favorite parts of each playthrough, even if they all played somewhat the same. Jump on the small enemy, pick it up, and hurl it at the big boss a few times. Funnily enough, I found the final boss to be the easiest, but I won't go into detail about it to prevent spoilers. Each of the bosses is based on a character that has appeared as somewhat of an antagonist in the show, such as the big baby from Angelica's Nightmare or the show's equivalent of the Care Bears. Before I learned the boss patterns, I kinda found them frustrating, but by my second playthrough I understood what was going on. I will admit I was a bit disappointed to see that replaying a stage does not allow you to replay the boss, and instead you're just given the Reptar coin you previously earned for defeating it. Luckily the game is short enough where I don't mind if I have to delete a save file or start a new one to replay the fights, but it still just stuck out to me as a bit of a questionable choice. The NES influence goes beyond the character abilities because if you haven't figured it out by now, this is an NES game. If you put this game next to the other licensed games from that era that inspired it, such as DuckTales or Chip and Dale, you'd hardly believe this game was created more than 30 years later. There's even a cartridge version that can be played on original NES hardware. All that being said, it still comes with the challenge of being a classic NES game, which at times made it feel a bit frustrating or unforgiving. Your character's hitbox can feel too large, there can be too many enemies on screen at once to comfortably navigate, but I took this as a challenge to adapt my playstyle to what was being presented. One specific example of my frustration, however, would oftentimes I'd be climbing a rope, and I'd try to jump to the side, but my character would just be stuck on the rope, climbing up and down, and I'd just have to fall. While not the most ideal solution, I sometimes had to ignore the cookie I wanted for the sake of my own health bar. Being an experience crafted for the NES also means the game misses out on the opportunity to flesh out some of the details a bit more in order to ensure the experience is the same in both HD and 8-bit modes, most notably being the omission of voice acting. Visually, the game looks great. I played through the whole game twice, and while I thought the illustrated graphics were just okay in HD mode, the game truly shined in 8-bit mode. The HD mode bears a strong resemblance to the original cartoon's art style in both the gameplay and the cutscenes, but the retro mode became my favorite way to play as the platforming felt more precise and felt like a more complete video game experience. Like many retro re-releases, it has a CRT filter, but in this game, it just feels right. The flicker effect that it has feels more authentic than any other re-release that I've played. You also have the option to zoom in and play in full screen with a 16:9 aspect ratio at the push of a button, though that makes it harder to see many of the enemies and obstacles in your way and plan your next move, so I never use this feature. The music in this game also has no right being as good as it is. The boss theme especially steals the show, being the show's arguably iconic theme song with an action-y feel. And even though none of the tracks have stuck in my head per se, I remember feeling in the moment how well they matched the environment I was meant to be exploring. The soundtrack comes in both 8-bit and HD modes, and you can mix and match them for your preferred playstyle. I played through the game twice just to see both visual styles, and each playthrough took me roughly an hour. So for 2 hours of content, I think the asking retail price might be a little high for some, but still worth it for fans of the series or anyone just looking for a quick NES adventure. While it doesn't have too much to offer in terms of depth compared to today's video game standards, the story and gameplay provided are enough to easily pick up and play at your own convenience for some retro fun. Rugrats Adventure in Gameland is a true nostalgia trip, bringing a taste of the 90s cartoon into 2024. If you're a fan of the show or just looking for a new retro-styled experience, you're sure to be at least somewhat satisfied with the game being presented here.